The atmosphere around your life has been shifting, even if you haven't fully understood it yet. You've been feeling a strange heaviness lately. A pressure. A spiritual tension that you can't explain. Something deep within you has been whispering. Something isn't right. Something is happening behind the scenes. And today, that whisper becomes a revelation. Because the truth is this: God saw something that you didn't. He heard conversations you weren't in. He witnessed actions taken against you in dark corners, behind closed doors, in places you were never invited to. And God is saying, I cannot allow you to walk blindly anymore. I must warn you. This message didn't find you by accident. It is your confirmation. It is your spiritual alert. It is heaven's intervention in your timeline. You were wondering why certain people walked away. Why sudden conflicts appeared. Why certain relationships shifted overnight. Why you felt betrayed by people who once pretended to love you. But God says, I removed them because I saw what they did when you weren't looking. And what they did is about to shock you. Before we go deeper, take a moment to support this channel's mission. If this message is already speaking to your spirit, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more people can receive the word they desperately need. You have been carrying a weight on your spirit that you couldn't quite explain. A heaviness that didn't come from stress, didn't come from fear, didn't come from your imagination. It came from truth, a truth you felt long before you understood it. Because deep inside, before your mind could process it, your spirit already sensed that something was wrong. Something had shifted. Someone who claimed to care for you was not who they appeared to be. But God. God saw the betrayal before it ever touched your heart. You trusted people who didn't deserve access to your inner world, yet your innocence was never a mistake, your purity was never foolishness. You shared genuine love with hearts that weren't capable of giving it back. You opened doors to people who only came to take, never to contribute. You revealed dreams to individuals who secretly hoped you would never rise high enough to outgrow them. God watched every moment. He saw the intentions behind their smiles. He heard the jealousy behind their compliments. He recognized the envy behind their concern. These were people who applauded when you suffered, but went silent when you succeeded. People who said, I'm happy for you, while whispering to others, don't worry, it won't last. People who pretended to stand with you but were quietly cheering for your downfall because your progress exposed their stagnation. But here is the revelation. Your light bothered them because it revealed everything they tried to hide. You didn't change, they just couldn't hide anymore. The closer you got to your breakthrough, the more their masks began to slip. The more you healed, the more their unhealed parts were exposed. The more you grew, the more uncomfortable they became. Your success triggered the broken pieces inside them. Your resilience reminded them of their own lack of discipline. Your vision reminded them of how small they were thinking. And so they began to distance themselves. Not because they needed to, but because they could no longer control the version of you that God was raising up. Somebody listening to this needs to understand. They didn't walk away because you did something wrong. They walked away because God revealed their heart, and they could no longer pretend. Every ignored message. Every sudden shift in attitude. Every unexplained coldness. Every unexpected separation. All of it was God's way of saying, you didn't lose them. I removed them. You were asking God to bless you. You were asking God to elevate you. You were asking God to take you higher. But God could not take you higher with people who were rooting for you to fail. He saw the betrayal planned behind your back. He heard the conversations meant to discredit you. He saw the jealousy disguised as friendship. He saw the manipulation behind their kindness. You didn't see the knives they hid in their smiles. But God did. And before their betrayal could strike you, He cut the connection. Before their words could wound you, He shifted their spirit. Before their actions could destroy you, He pushed them out of your life. This wasn't rejection. This wasn't abandonment. This wasn't loss. This was protection. God is saying to you now. Stop mourning people I removed for your protection. You prayed for clarity, this is clarity. You prayed for discernment, this is discernment. You prayed for God to reveal who is truly for you, this is your revelation. And the truth is this. You were loyal to people who were never loyal to you. You were committed to people who were only convenient with you. You were defending people who were quietly damaging your name. You were helping people who would have never helped you the same way. You were holding on to people who were secretly letting go of you long ago. But God is turning the page. Because He saw the betrayal before you felt it. He saw the deception before you recognized it. He saw the danger before you stepped into it. Now He is showing you what He already knew. This is why the relationship ended suddenly. This is why the friendship faded unexpectedly. This is why the connection broke without warning. This is why their energy shifted overnight. It wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't personal. It was divine intervention. God pulled them away because their access to you was a threat to your destiny. God broke the connection because their influence over you could have delayed your purpose. God exposed the cracks because they were never stable enough to stand with you. God revealed their heart because you deserved clarity, not confusion. Now listen closely. You are stepping into a season where God will surround you with genuine souls. People who don't compete, people who celebrate. People who don't envy, people who encourage. People who don't pretend, people who show up authentically. People who don't drain, people who pour back into you. But before God places the right people, He must remove the wrong ones. And He already started that process. So don't fight what God is finishing. Don't chase what God disconnected. Don't grieve what God protected you from. Don't hold on to what heaven has already cut loose. You didn't lose them. You escaped them. And the freedom you're stepping into now is going to show you why God had to remove them so quickly and so forcefully. If this spoke deeply to your spirit, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more people can receive this prophetic warning and walk in their divine protection. There are moments in your life where you thought things were falling apart, but the truth is, things were falling into place. There were situations you thought were setbacks, but heaven calls them interventions. There were relationships you thought you lost, but God calls them rescues. There were plans you made that you thought were good for you, but God knew they were too dangerous for the version of you He was shaping. And some of those dangers you never even saw. Because while you were sleeping peacefully, God was fighting battles on your behalf. While you were trusting the wrong people with the right heart, God was blocking their intentions from touching your destiny. While you were walking into moments unaware of the traps around you, God was rearranging your steps to keep you alive, aligned, and protected. God did not just save you from what happened. He saved you from what was coming. This is the part of your story you never knew. There were plans, schemes, conversations, and decisions that others made with your name in their mouths. Yet God interrupted every single one of them before they could touch you. You didn't know, but heaven knew. You didn't hear their words, but God heard every syllable. You didn't notice the betrayal forming, but God saw it taking shape long before you felt the sting. And so God said, "Not this one. Not my child. Not their destiny. Not their purpose. Not their future." He did not request permission. He did not negotiate. He did not warn them gently. He interrupted. He disrupted. He dismantled everything that was forming against you. Because some attacks you are too anointed to endure. Some environments you are too chosen to stay in. Some people you are too gifted to be connected to. Some relationships were too draining for the purpose inside you. So God interfered. Not to punish you, but to preserve you. God saw the plan before it reached you. Understand this. The enemy never attacks randomly. He attacks strategically. He attacks when you're close to breakthrough. He attacks when you're growing. He attacks when your confidence is rising. He attacks when you're stepping into deeper purpose. Your elevation irritates hell. Your clarity disrupts darkness. Your progress threatens the insecurity of those around you. Some people saw your potential before you fully understood it yourself. And instead of supporting you, they tried to stop you. They were planning to guilt you. Planning to manipulate you. Planning to use you. Planning to drain you emotionally, financially, spiritually. Planning to keep you small because your expansion exposed their lack of effort. They were preparing to take advantage of your kindness. Preparing to pull you back into cycles God rescued you from. Preparing to convince you to settle for less because they could never rise to more. But what they didn't know is, they were planning inside a territory God governs. Before their strategy could reach your life, God interrupted it. Before their influence could contaminate your peace, God removed the connection. Before their intentions could break your spirit, God shifted their path away from yours. You keep wondering, why did they suddenly disappear? Why did the door just shut? Why did the opportunity vanish? Why did that relationship end out of nowhere? Why do I feel blocked from things I once desired? Because God blocked what was about to block you. He shut the door because there was danger on the other side. He removed the person because their heart was never pure. He ended the connection because it was secretly draining your purpose. He destroyed that plan because it would have destroyed your identity. Some things didn't fall apart. God tore them apart. It wasn't the devil. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't sabotage. It was protection disguised as disappointment. You didn't miss anything, God saved you from it. There were people you prayed to keep. People you were willing to fight for. People you didn't want to lose. But God says, if you knew what I knew, you would have let go faster. They were preparing to betray you. Preparing to exploit you. Preparing to use your love as leverage. But God did not let the situation progress far enough for their plan to have power. You think you missed an opportunity. God says you avoided a trap. You think the timing was wrong. God says the environment was toxic. You think you lost a blessing. God says that blessing was counterfeit. You think they walked away. God says He pushed them out because they had access to your vulnerabilities and intended to use them against you. It would have destroyed your focus. It would have delayed your destiny. It would have lowered your standards. It would have drained your spirit. It would have placed your heart in the hands of someone who did not value it. And because God loves you too much to watch you walk blindly, He intervened. God shut doors because your future required it. Some doors didn't close by accident. You didn't force them shut. You didn't mismanage them. You didn't ruin them. Heaven closed them. And heaven never closes a door without protecting something sacred on the other side. God shut the door because you were about to settle for less than you deserved. You were about to invest in people who had no intention of investing back. You were about to give loyalty to someone who saw you as an option. You were about to enter a space where you would be celebrated publicly but drained privately. You were about to trust someone who was already planning to disappoint you. So God said, no, this one is chosen. This one is marked. This one carries purpose. I cannot allow them to walk into what will weaken their spirit. This wasn't a delay. This wasn't a rejection. This wasn't failure. This was prevention. Heaven preserved your destiny by removing what was sent to poison it. Not every loss was a loss, some were escapes. If God showed you everything He saved you from, you would fall to your knees in gratitude. You have no idea how many heartbreaks you avoided. How many betrayals never reached you. How many emotional breakdowns God prevented. How many financial disasters he blocked. How many spiritual attacks he intercepted. How many wrong turns he redirected. There were moments where the enemy strategized behind your back. But God said, "No weapon. Not this time. Not ever." The enemy formed the weapon. But it never prospered. They formed the plan. But it collapsed before it could begin. They formed the lie. But it never reached the ears it was intended for. They formed the trap. But you walked in a completely different direction without even knowing why. Because God pulled you away before they could pull you down. The interruption was your blessing. God didn't interrupt their plan to punish them. He interrupted it to protect you. It wasn't about them. It was always about you. The calling on your life is too expensive for God to let you move recklessly. The purpose in you is too valuable for God to let you attach to the wrong people. The oil on you is too rare for God to let you waste it in places where it would never be honored. You are chosen. You are covered. You are spiritually guarded. There are angels assigned to your path. There are divine boundaries around your life. There is a hedge of protection surrounding your purpose. This is why certain things could not happen. Not because you were weak. But because you were protected. God saw what they were planning. And He shut it down before it could begin. There comes a moment in every chosen person's journey where God decides it is time for truth, time for exposure, time for clarity, and time for revelation. You have been walking with limited information. You have been trusting with limited visibility. You have been navigating situations with only half the picture. But now heaven has declared, no more walking in the dark. This is the season where God removes the veil. Where He reveals the unseen. Where He exposes the intentions of those around you. Where He shines light in places where shadows were growing silently. Where He shows you what you were never meant to miss. Not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to strengthen you. Because truth is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to prepare you, protect you, and free you. You've been asking God for answers. You've been praying for clarity. You've been feeling something shifting but couldn't describe it. You sensed something wasn't right but couldn't explain it. God heard every prayer. And now, He's responding with revelation. Your spirit noticed what your mind couldn't see. Even before God reveals truth externally, He always reveals it internally first. That uneasy feeling you had. That wasn't anxiety, that was discernment waking up. That sudden distance you felt from someone. That wasn't your imagination, your spirit was detecting misalignment. That confusion you kept wrestling with. That wasn't overthinking, that was heaven whispering, pay attention. Something is off. You kept trying to explain it to yourself, maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe I'm overreacting. But inside your spirit, something was saying, no. This is real. Something is hidden. And God is about to expose it. Your spirit felt what your mind hadn't processed yet. Because your anointing detects energy long before your eyes detect behavior. Everything done in the dark is coming to light. God does not allow deception to remain hidden forever. There is always a day where He says, enough. And when God says enough, the truth begins to surface in ways you didn't expect. Suddenly you start noticing patterns. You start remembering conversations differently. You start hearing what was always between the lines. You start seeing people's true colors in moments they thought you weren't paying attention. God begins revealing. Who spoke against you when you weren't there, who smiled in your face but questioned your character behind your back, who pretended to support you but secretly envied your growth, who acted like a friend but operated like an enemy, who was assigned to your life and who was attached to your life, who loved you sincerely and who loved the benefits of you, who was loyal and who was comfortable. You are entering a season where God will make every hidden thing visible. Not to hurt you, but to position you correctly. Because your next blessing requires clarity. Your next elevation requires accuracy. Your next season requires people with clean hearts and pure intentions. You cannot afford to be surrounded by deception and expect destiny to unfold smoothly. So God is cleaning your environment through revelation. The revealing will not break you, it will free you. Yes, the truth may shock you. It may sting. It may surprise you. It may leave you speechless for a moment. But it will not destroy you. Because God never reveals truth to crush you, He reveals it to release you. There are people you've been loyal to who were never loyal to you. Situations you've been fighting for that God never wanted you to keep. Connections you were trying to revive that God pronounced dead a long time ago. Relationships you wanted to fix that God intended to end. God is revealing truth not to punish you, but to protect the future version of you. He's removing the blindfold because the next level requires spiritual sight. You cannot step into destiny with blurred vision. You cannot pursue purpose surrounded by hidden motives. You cannot walk in power while connected to those who benefit from your weakness. Revelation is the key to your elevation. And that's why God is giving it to you now. God is about to show you people's real intentions. Some people didn't expect you to grow. They didn't expect you to heal. They didn't expect you to rise. They didn't expect you to discern. They counted on your naivety. They counted on your softness. They counted on your silence. They counted on your loyalty. They counted on your forgiving heart. What they forgot is, they weren't dealing with just anyone. They were dealing with someone God protects fiercely. So here's what's about to happen. Their words will expose them. Their actions will reveal their heart. Their silence will show their intentions. Their inconsistencies will show their truth. Their sudden changes will reveal what they were hiding. Their distancing will expose what was in their spirit. You won't need to confront anyone. You won't need to investigate. You won't need to question. God Himself will reveal it. Sometimes through a slip of the tongue. Sometimes through a dream. Sometimes through a message. Sometimes through conversations you stumble upon. Sometimes through their behavior shifting suddenly. Sometimes through things they forgot to hide. God will make the truth impossible to ignore. Because you have reached a season where deception can no longer survive around you. The revelation will push you into your next level. Every time God reveals truth, elevation follows. Truth leads to clarity. Clarity leads to separation. Separation leads to movement. Movement leads to elevation. Elevation leads to destiny. This revelation is not random, it is strategic. God is showing you what was hidden because He is preparing you for something greater. A bigger assignment, a deeper calling, a new opportunity, a higher level of influence, a stronger anointing, a major breakthrough, a shift in your environment, a transformation in your identity. You cannot bring old deception into a new destiny. You cannot bring hidden enemies into a season of elevation. You cannot bring fake supporters into a season of divine promotion. So God is exposing everything that cannot go with you. This revelation is not the end, it is the beginning of something powerful. What God reveals will confirm what your spirit always knew. When the truth comes out, you will say, I knew something wasn't right. I knew God was trying to tell me something. I knew my spirit wasn't lying. I knew the energy shifted. I knew the connection was breaking. I knew God was preparing me. I knew this separation was divine. The revelation will not surprise your spirit already sensed it. The revelation will only confirm what heaven whispered long ago. This is God telling you. You were not crazy. You were not imagining it. You were not overthinking. You were not insecure. You were discerning. Your intuition is not random, it is spiritual intelligence. It is divine insight. It is heaven's alarm system inside you. You are about to see why God removed them. This final part is crucial. When God reveals what was hidden, you will finally understand why He removed certain people so suddenly. You will see why their exit was necessary, why God blocked that connection, why the separation happened fast, why the door closed without warning, why the friendship died silently, why the relationship ended abruptly, why the opportunity dissolved, why the energy shifted overnight. Everything will suddenly make sense. And you will thank God, not for what He gave you, but for what He protected you from. The revelation will not break you, it will free you, empower you, and elevate you. This is your season of divine truth. There comes a moment in every spiritual battle where heaven stops watching in silence. There is a moment when God decides that the line has been crossed, the intentions have been revealed, and the hidden hands raised against you can no longer remain unseen. This is that moment for you. Not next month, not one day in the future, not at some distant time you cannot imagine. This moment, right now, is when God begins to separate the real from the fake, the loyal from the deceitful, the genuine from the pretenders who smiled in your face while thinking something entirely different in their hearts. Heaven has been watching you walk through a season where you thought certain people were with you. You believed they clapped when you succeeded. You trusted their words, their praise, their congratulations. But what God saw behind the scenes was completely different. Because while you were celebrating forward movement, they were whispering doubt. While you were trusting, they were plotting. While you were extending your hand, they were quietly sharpening a spiritual knife behind their back, waiting for a moment of vulnerability. What they hid from you, God never missed. What they disguised with polite smiles and soft words, God saw with perfect clarity. And now heaven is stepping forward because the season of pretending has ended. The mask is coming off every person who has been sent to drain you, distract you, burden you, or delay you. You may not know what was said about you, but God heard it. You may not know why someone suddenly changed their attitude toward you, but God knows exactly what shifted. You may not realize who has envied you or who has quietly hoped that you would fail, but God has been taking notes while you continue to walk with a pure heart. The reason God is warning you now is because the next chapter of your life cannot include people who are secretly rooting for your downfall. You are stepping into a level of blessing that requires clean surroundings, protected peace, and aligned connections. You are stepping into favor that demands the removal of contamination. You are stepping into purpose that cannot be carried with the weight of wrong voices, wrong energy, and wrong intentions. This is why God is exposing motives. This is why certain friendships have started to feel strange. This is why someone's sudden distance or hostility is not a coincidence. Heaven has initiated a divine reset in your relationships, because what is coming requires sharper discernment, stronger boundaries, and deeper spiritual awareness. And here is the truth that may shock you: the people who wounded you were never truly capable of stopping your destiny. They couldn't block what God planned. They couldn't delay what heaven ordained. They couldn't ruin what was already written in the Spirit. They only succeeded in revealing themselves. Their actions became the evidence God is now using to move them out of your path. The betrayal, the gossip, the backstabbing, the jealousy, the silent competition, the fake loyalty, the hidden envy, none of it was wasted. God used every piece of it to show you who they really are. And the moment you saw the truth, even if it was painful, heaven whispered that discovery is protection. Some losses were actually rescues. Some endings were spiritual surgery. Some disappointments were divine detours. You thought you were being rejected, but heaven was removing you from people who were never meant to handle your blessing. You thought the shift was random, but it was strategic. You thought the separation was painful, but it was necessary. God is warning you because you cannot afford to reopen doors that heaven is closing. You cannot keep trying to revive connections that were hurting you. You cannot keep giving access to people who did not value your presence. You cannot allow someone back into your life simply because you missed the idea of who they used to be. God saw who they really are now, and that is why He is guiding you forward, not backward. And here is the divine reversal: the very people who tried to discourage you will witness your elevation. The ones who spoke against you will see God speak for you. The ones who counted you out will watch heaven count you in. The ones who underestimated you will see why heaven never did. The ones who hoped you would fall will see you rise to a height that leaves them speechless. God is about to use the same situation the enemy tried to break you with as the platform that displays His glory over your life. Your pain is turning into proof. Your tears are turning into testimony. Your confusion is turning into clarity. Your heartbreak is turning into holy confidence. Your delay is turning into divine acceleration. This is the season where God is saying enough. Enough of the mistreatment. Enough of the disrespect. Enough of the false appearances. Enough of the energy that drains your spirit. Enough of the connections that pull you backward. Enough of the cycles that steal your joy. God is breaking the pattern by uncovering the root. You are entering a chapter where the wrong people fall away naturally. They may show themselves through jealousy, through disrespect, through distance, or through inconsistency. Do not fight to hold on. Let them go. Heaven is pruning your life because you are about to blossom in ways that cannot happen in a crowded garden. Your destiny requires room. Your blessing requires space. Your purpose requires freedom. Your spirit requires peace. This warning from God is not meant to create fear. It is meant to open your eyes. Because once you see the truth, you will stop blaming yourself for situations you never caused, for conversations you never knew about, for shifts you didn't understand. You will realize that God was protecting you long before you realized you needed protection. Now lift your head. Straighten your posture. Prepare your spirit. Because what God has planned for you is bigger than what they tried to do to you. The attack was real, but the victory is greater. The betrayal hurt, but the blessing will heal. The exposure stings, but the truth will set you free. If this message is speaking to your spirit, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so we can spread this word to someone who needs it. There comes a point in your journey when heaven itself leans forward, looks at what has been happening around you, and declares that the time for silent endurance is over. You have been walking through a long stretch of warfare, feeling things you could not explain, carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. You tried to be patient, to be kind, to be understanding. You tried to look past the things that didn't make sense, telling yourself it wasn't as bad as it felt. But God knew exactly what you were dealing with. God saw what you tolerated. God saw the weight you carried while trying to keep your heart pure. And now He is stepping into the situation with authority. This is the moment heaven intervenes. Not because you complained, not because you begged, not because you broke down, but because God decided that enough is enough. He is stepping in because the spiritual attacks against you crossed a line. He is stepping in because the arrows thrown at your spirit were unauthorized. He is stepping in because the people coming against you thought you were unprotected, not realizing you have always been surrounded by divine covering. You may feel like you have been standing alone, but you were never alone. You may feel like you were fighting by yourself, but you were never fighting without help. There has been a war around your life that your natural eyes could not see, and heaven has been preserving you through every unseen battle. This is why you survived what should have destroyed you. This is why you kept rising when others expected you to fall. This is why your mind stayed intact even when the pressure was overwhelming. This is why you didn't break, even when everything around you was shaking. What you thought was weakness was actually spiritual endurance. What you thought was delay was actually divine construction. What you thought was punishment was actually preparation for the role heaven is leading you into. Every season of confusion you walked through, God is now bringing clarity. Every unanswered question in your heart, God is beginning to address. Every moment you wondered why something happened the way it did, God is about to show you that nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was overlooked. God steps in precisely when the attacks around you no longer match the season you are stepping into. You outgrew the storm. You outgrew the fear. You outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated foolishness in the name of kindness. You outgrew the insecurity that made you question your own worth. You outgrew the patterns that used to keep you stuck. There is a moment in the spiritual realm when your elevation becomes official before you even see it. When God writes a new chapter for your life, the enemy panics first. That is why the warfare intensified. That is why people started acting strangely. That is why relationships that used to feel steady suddenly felt unstable. Heaven shifted your position, and everything connected to your old level began to fall away. God is stepping in now because there are blessings with your name on them that cannot be delayed any longer. There are doors you have been praying for, fasting for, believing for, crying for, sowing for, doors that heaven is opening with your next step of obedience. And the people who tried to block you cannot stand in your way. The ones who tried to discredit you cannot change your destiny. The ones who thought their rejection would break you are about to watch God honor you publicly. There is a spiritual law that never fails: what is done in darkness eventually comes into the light. And God is not only exposing the intentions of others, He is also exposing the greatness inside you that you have not even fully tapped into yet. You are stepping into a season where your value will no longer be hidden. Your potential will no longer be ignored. Your gifts will no longer be suppressed. Your purpose will no longer be delayed. God is saying that you have been quiet long enough. You have carried your pain in silence long enough. You have let people underestimate you long enough. You have allowed fear to stop you long enough. You have dimmed your light long enough. Heaven is pushing you forward because you were not created to shrink. You were created to shine. This is the moment when God begins to restore everything you lost in the battle. Every blessing that slipped through your fingers. Every opportunity that was sabotaged. Every connection that was poisoned by jealousy. Every breakthrough that seemed to vanish right when you needed it. God is pulling it all back into alignment. Nothing that belongs to you can remain in enemy hands. You are entering a season where the same things that worked against you will start working for you. The same environment that felt hostile will become a platform for your elevation. The same lessons that broke you down will become the wisdom that builds you up. The same storms that intimidated you will become proof that you were always stronger than you realized. This divine intervention is not just about rescue, it is about realignment. God is placing you where you were always meant to be. He is connecting you with the people who will value your spirit, appreciate your heart, and honor your journey. He is removing the voices that made you doubt yourself and replacing them with voices that speak life, purpose, and vision. And here is the deeper truth: your spirit is graduating. You are stepping into a higher level of spiritual authority, discernment, and clarity. You are no longer the person who was easily shaken. You are no longer the person who second-guessed every decision. You are no longer the person who tolerated disrespect disguised as love. You are becoming the person God designed you to be all along. This warning from heaven is not meant to terrify you, it is meant to prepare you. Because when God steps in, shifts begin to happen quickly. Relationships change. Opportunities appear. Doors open. Patterns break. Cycles end. And blessings begin to accelerate in ways you never could have imagined. You will look back on this moment and realize that this was the turning point. This was when everything began to change. This was when God lifted you out of what was draining you and placed you in what was destined for you. This was when the old season finally released its grip, and the new season embraced you fully. Prepare yourself, because God is stepping in not to warn you alone but to position you. To protect you. To lift you. To establish you. To crown you with the favor that was always reserved for you. If this message is speaking to your heart, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next message heaven sends your way. There are moments in life when everything feels still on the outside, yet something massive is happening behind the scenes. The air feels different, the atmosphere feels heavy, and you can sense a change even before you understand it. This is the shift that has already begun in your life. Not a small shift, not a gentle transition, but a complete spiritual repositioning where God is shifting things in ways your eyes have not yet seen. You have felt unusual pressure lately, almost like something was pushing against your spirit from multiple directions. You may have felt tired, disconnected, or even unusually emotional without understanding why. It wasn't depression. It wasn't confusion. It was spiritual contraction. Just like a mother feels pressure before birth, your spirit has been feeling the weight of what God is pushing out of you and what He is preparing to bring into your life. This pressure has been a sign that the spiritual realm is rearranging itself around your destiny. For months, you have felt something rising inside you. Sometimes you tried to ignore it, telling yourself it was your imagination. Other times you felt a fire in your soul, but you didn't know what to do with it. You sensed you were being called higher, but you weren't sure what steps to take. You felt God pulling you out of certain circles, distancing you from certain voices, isolating you from certain environments, and though it felt uncomfortable, you knew it was purposeful. The shift in your spirit was telling you that the old you could not survive where God is taking you. Heaven has already begun releasing what was previously held back. Blessings that were tied up. Opportunities that were delayed. Promises that felt distant. Breakthroughs that seemed impossible. The spiritual locks that held them in place are breaking one by one. What was stuck is being released. What was blocked is being opened. What was hidden is being revealed. God is not simply giving you what you asked for. He is positioning you to receive what you could not even imagine. This shift is not only external, it is internal. You are becoming someone new. Someone wiser. Someone stronger. Someone clearer. Someone more aligned. Someone who no longer ignores intuition, who no longer dismisses red flags, who no longer apologizes for wanting peace or needing distance. This version of you is walking in authority, not insecurity. In discernment, not confusion. In courage, not fear. You may not see the full picture yet, but the evidence is already showing. The things that used to disturb your peace no longer have that power. The people who once triggered anxiety no longer affect you. The drama that once drew you in no longer interests you. Something in you has shifted. Your soul refuses to return to what drained you. The reason you feel different is because you are different. And the enemy knows this. That is why the attacks lately have not been external, they have been internal. The enemy cannot access your future, but he can try to attack your mind on your way there. He can try to whisper fear, doubt, confusion, insecurity, and hopelessness. He can try to convince you that nothing is happening even when heaven is working overtime. He can try to blur your vision just before God reveals the breakthrough. Do not be fooled by the silence. Silence is not absence. Silence is preparation. Silence is spiritual construction. Silence is heaven's final stage before manifestation. God has been preparing you for a release that is larger than what you prayed for. He is not simply shifting your season, He is shifting your identity, your purpose, your connections, your responsibility, and your spiritual authority. This new chapter is not about survival. It is about establishment. It is about stepping into alignment with what God always knew you were capable of becoming. It is about living from your spirit, not your wounds. It is about creating from vision, not fear. It is about walking in purpose, not pressure. The shift is also removing what can no longer go forward with you. Relationships that drain you are dissolving. Doors that keep you stagnant are closing. Patterns that repeat pain are being broken. Cycles that bind you are being severed. God is not punishing you, He is pruning you. Pruning feels like loss, but it is the preparation for growth. Every time you felt someone distance themselves, every time a door shut unexpectedly, every time a situation suddenly changed without warning, it was heaven making room for your next level. You were not being rejected. You were being redirected. You were not being abandoned. You were being preserved. And now comes the release. The release is when everything that was being aligned behind the scenes suddenly starts falling into place. When clarity replaces confusion. When doors begin opening one after another. When people who were meant to help you appear unexpectedly. When opportunities begin unfolding effortlessly. When your spirit feels lighter, when your mind feels sharper, and when your confidence rises again. You are stepping into a season where you will not have to chase what is yours. It will come to you. It will find you. It will recognize you. Because what God has ordained cannot miss the person it was written for. This release is going to shock you. Not because God is unpredictable, but because He is faithful in ways you didn't expect. You thought the blessing would be small, but God made it big. You thought the breakthrough would be gradual, but God made it sudden. You thought the restoration would take years, but God is making it happen quickly. You thought the victory would come with struggle, but God is giving it in peace. Heaven is saying that the shift has already happened. Now the release begins. Get ready, because what comes next will make every tear make sense. Every disappointment will suddenly have meaning. Every delay will show its purpose. Every battle will reveal its reward. You are walking into a chapter where God's fingerprints will be visible in every detail. If this message is speaking to your spirit, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a prophetic message meant to strengthen your journey.